I wanted just to be more laid back and personal with you, ask you like more just simple questions and about you personally, like how you're doing things, like how you filter water, how's your gardening going? You know, more like that. I know because after the show, I know Fabian told me you had a lot of gardening. I do a lot of gardening. I've been you know, for about 10 years now. So, you know, I'd like to know how your garden's doing. Any tips, things like that. A simple show. We don't have to get into the germ theory stuff and the things we're usually trying to get people to listen to.
Oh, you mean the beating of a dead horse? That? Yeah, I'm in summer mode for certain. This is the first summer on my land, and I'm watching and studying the land right now. It's 53 acres, and I'm learning about what wants to go where. Well, beautiful property with still some sod put in, and I'm not really a fan of sod or such lawns, even though there's areas you need it if you want to run around and sometimes. But I've been doing alternatives, so I'm welcoming the clover and I'm welcoming the red thyme, and there's this other plant that I've just seen on people's lawns when I drive between these locations, and it's this gorgeous bright yellow mossy looking substance, and I haven't actually seen it up close yet, so I'm going to adopt some of it and see if it will take in the lawn area so I can get a low cut lawn look with what we can walk on and use when we play badminton or whatever we're playing. So it's not just, you know, motherwort, which I left in my garden. And, you know, if you know motherwort plant, it's taller than me right now, and it's just begun its flower. So I'm harvesting a lot of motherwort currently. I am making tinctures, which motherwort is famous for anxiety, like halting anxiety, supporting it, especially for women of sort of my age range, because I'm going to be 48 in August, and your body starts to go through menopausal shifting where you're, you know, just your cycles change and your breasts change, like you change, you do go through this metamorphosis again. And when you get into this age range, because you're obviously not going to be producing babies, and the body eventually decides that, you know, it's going to downregulate in different ways, and you can get more anxiety if you already have adrenal fatigue, adrenal stress, which most of us do. I mean, just by going through naturopathic college alone, the amount of adrenal stress was tremendous, and I had to work on recovery after I graduated school. You know, for at least a year, I was working on solidly on trying to rehabilitate my own adrenals from the damage that school did, really. And when you go in through this perimenopausal space, then the anxiety can be it's actually an underlying unknown anxiety. You don't really know why. Usually it's just a sensation and it feels like anxiety, so we label it like that, and you just want to go away and you can't seem to. And I hear this from a lot of women in this stage of life, and it's a problem, obviously, because you're in fight or flight a lot of the day, and then your digestion is going to be reduced. You're going to have complaints. So this particular plant, glorious, beautiful, I was so happy to inherit so much of it. It's as if every year of gardening, it just tells me what to do. It's that nature tells me what to harvest, what to grow, where to go. So it's different for me every year. I've been gardening about the same amount of years as you. I think this is my 11th now. And I can't keep up the 2 gardens on the 2 properties. It's just too much for me. I would love to have hired or have someone who would run gardens on the other property, actually. I would have a paid position. I would pay someone to do that, to run a garden there. And here I will run, obviously, my own garden. And for the first time in my 10 years of gardening, I do not have raised beds. I guess I've been spoiled with the raised beds. How about yourself? Because this is in-ground planting, and this is all new kind of territory for me. I'll tell you, you wouldn't think but it is.
I do in-ground. And to me, I started, I like what you were saying with the clovers, because that was like a guy at a nursery was telling me about that too. You know, do that so you don't have to like be cutting grass and this and that.
Yeah.
You could just have clover that doesn't get high.
Yeah.
Um,
And you can
and
take
then I
the
went,
clover blossoms as tea. And I'm
yeah,
collecting a lot of those right now. The clover blossoms can be collected and dried and used as tea, as a hormone balancer.
that's great. I know I have one daughter, she's 9 years old, and she's been eating clovers the past couple days. So yeah, that's oh, so what I was gonna say is I did perennials when I first got the land. I thought of, plant one thing, and like spearmint, that was like the most simple thing ever. Just planting spearmint, and then like it's just more and more every year taking over. Would you say spearmint's good for tea also, right? Would you say?
So absolutely, spearmint. And you're right about perennials. I mean, I do as much as I can, and actually I inherited a garden too here. There were peas when I purchased the property. There were lots of peas, there were tomatoes still, all kinds of potatoes, etc. So I had a lot to harvest, and so a lot of perennials were already there. And I have a garden tower, a grow tower from Juice Plus that I got many years ago. I mean, yeah, not 8 years ago, I think. And I run it often for my lettuces and kales, that sort of stuff. I just transplanted all that growth because with the grow tower, eventually you have to reset everything because the lettuces will start to bolt and go to seed, and all the things will eventually go to seed. That's when you can take them out and actually transplant them into the garden. And those are perennials. You'll get the kale again and again. You'll get the lettuces year after year. You'll get spinaches year after year. I do. And then you have to think where I'm going to put them, because I have so much going on in that garden. It's a jungle. I've never had a garden with lemon balm over here, and then just parsley just through there, and it's the strangest setup for me. It's working, and it's in conjunction with the weeds, which I use as herbals. And all I've done is I've pruned the weeds which are medicinal, that I know I'm not going to use. Absolutely, I know that I'm not going to harvest them and dry them for tea or make them into tinctures or whatnot. There's something called soapwort, which is wonderful. I make soap. I don't need to save the root of soapwort. It's okay, and there's not a lot of usage for the foliage. So, okay, that weed can go. And that's how I'm pruning the land without just, bulldozing over it. Because I have St. John's wort, I have coldfoot, I have everything. I have nettles everywhere. I'm so happy. I have so many herbs here. It's ridiculous. I have yellow dock, curly dock. I have all the cool thistles, and you can eat a lot of the thistles. You can peel off the outer and eat the stem as it's delicious. It's like almost like a crunchy celery sort of. I transplanted a lot too. I transplanted my comfrey, transplanted a lot of my bulbs.
What about mushrooms? Have you and I don't mean magic mushrooms, like different, like edible mushrooms, not the drug ones. I'm talking like, shiitake, reishi. You do any of that?
I have only been able to find so far. I have chaga mushroom on 3 trees, which is really great, and quite a bit of it, and I'm very happy about that. I haven't really gone into the marshy areas as much where I would be able to find more. I haven't had time to go, and sometimes you miss the season. I missed the leek season this year.
Well, 53 acres is a lot of land too.
There's a lot. There's a lot to do, and sometimes you have to be okay with that. What's that?
I only had 14 acres in upstate New York. Like about 45 minutes from like Syracuse area.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good growing. You get lots. I mean,
but 54 acres you have? 54? I know how much work that must be and how much land that is to cover.
Well, this is forest. This is mainly forest with an opening for my garden. And it's good. You learn and you adapt to the space. the space around the house where there's lawn, one part of it, I want to change into a garden, probably with fruit trees, more like a Zen garden or something where you're meandering and you have different herbals or attractors of pollinators or whatever all in there. Because lawn, you really don't, you don't really need too much of that. You want diversity of all kinds of animals and insects and that sort of thing. When you get that, it's really quite harmonious in your space. We have one turkey that visits us, and my daughter's affectionately named him Edward. His name's Edward, and we just received from a neighbor a turkey call. It's a little plate with a stick, and you rub it, and it sounds like they're talking. And he came to, we're sitting on the porch today. Wow. and we're both practicing it. And we started hearing callbacks. I thought, is that a crow? It sounded actually like a crow at first. And we saw crows. And then all of a sudden we hear more of this response. And then poop, he pops up on the driveway. Oh, hello, how are you doing? And I thought, oh my goodness, I guess this is a real hunter's tool, isn't it? Well, I don't personally hunt, so.
I was gonna say, I thought are you almost like are you a vegetarian?
I haven't been the last while, but I am actually. It's interesting, I change my diet all the time. I've never stayed in one dietary regime really ever. I'm always experimenting with dietary regimes. I just do because I need to know.
What works best, right?
Yeah.
See what works best.
See what works, see how I feel, all kinds of changes. And anyway, I think altering your diet is a good habit because you're going to invite different groupings of foods that you may have missed certain nutrients for yourself. You'll overlap your nutrients or you'll find another avenue for them. And I think it's a good stressor. You know how there's exercise stress, which is good for you, right? And then there's negative stress, obviously, which degrades you, but there's a certain amount of momentum that comes with that for the body that assists it in its processes.